Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Rhyme of the Times for the weekend in 24th of February 2024. The release of Navalny's body is complicated. Lindsay Hoyle castigated as SNP are infuriated cause their motion is not debated. Lee Anderson defenestrated as Rishi is frustrated by the controversy he's created. Discussion is generated by the plan to have kids' phones regulated. Haley is annihilated by Trump, who is elated and will soon be nominated. Alexei Navalny's influence was virtually just virtual, locked away from the world in the Arctic Circle. Originally banged up for 3.5 years, but that was never going to be how it appeared. And sure enough, twice more Kremlin muscles were flexed and Navalny's sentence was stretched and stretched. By the time of last Friday's assassination, he was doomed to 28 years of incarceration. Nearly 3 decades to live through a living death. It's almost a mercy that he's breathed his last breath. Since 2021, Navalny's voice had been smothered as he'd been moved from one jail to another. In December, he was moved to an icy location. IK3 is a place of harsh isolation. But somehow he still got his message out, so the world knew what Putin was all about. A narcissist ruling with fear and violence. The Kremlin coward had to have him silenced. And so this murder was the inevitable conclusion for the Russian state. It was the only solution. And then Putin followed his own gruesome playbook and had the corpse taken where no one could look. For a week Navalny's body disappeared, time for the true evidence of his death to be cleared. Then Navalny's mum was given 3 hours to decide. Bury your son in secret or he'll be buried where he died. It should be said that the Kremlin denies murder, but Moscow telling the truth, there's nothing absurder. In the Commons on Wednesday, anger was reigning. Anger which the Speaker wasn't containing, as SNP and Tories walked out complaining, leaving mainly only Labour politicians remaining. Many think the Speaker, Lindsay Hoyle, was to blame, as he changed the rules of the parliamentary game, a change to procedure that had for years stayed the same, and so he'd released fury that he could not tame. And Hoyle's authority could not be reclaimed, as SNP's Stephen Flynn found his apology lame, and the Mother of Parliaments descended into shame, and all the time Gaza remains in flames. Not that this debate would have changed anything, this was mere parliamentary virtue signalling. Pro-Palestinian demonstrations everywhere had forced Parliament to discuss this foreign affair. Benjamin Netanyahu probably couldn't care less what the British Parliament actually says. Hoyle said it was the threat from these protests that had caused him to bow to Labour requests to allow a Labour amendment to the SNP motion, which led to the chaos and Commons commotion. SNP saw it as their motion being foiled, Hoyle having their opposition day spoiled. And for the rest of the week Hoyle clung to his job after having appeared to have caved in to the mob. Long ago the only danger from a mobile phone was dropping it on your foot could have broken a bone. At its inception, the definition of mobile would have made the current generation smile. They were mobile in the sense that they weren't fixed, but it was about as mobile as a house brick. Now the threat is huge from these devices we hold. The algorithms and apps have us all controlled. The danger now comes from the software within. but it seems the fight back is about to begin. The brutal murder of Brianna Ghey was senseless, but has it brought the human race to its senses? On Monday, the government outlined its plan to introduce a school day smartphone ban. Many schools already have in place such guidelines. This is for those heads still faffing on the sidelines. Knowing that the idea has government approval should facilitate the process of smartphone removal. Kids and teachers will argue about the benefits, and that's true in the right environment when it fits. But in the classroom it can be a distraction and limit the amount of human interaction. With smartphones in schools now ubiquitous, every child sees things that are quite iniquitous. And with social media sharing pics and vids, there's a worry about the mental health of our kids. Peer pressure, cyberbullying, online grooming. That handheld device becomes all-consuming. The child consumed into a virtual universe, leading to depression, self-harm, maybe worse. In the real world, bad stuff is also incessant, with politicians in particular being unpleasant. On Saturday, Lee Anderson was kicked off the Tory bus for kicking off in a manner seen as inglorious. The outspoken MP was at his extremist, saying Sadiq Khan was controlled by extremists. Meanwhile, across the sea in South Carolina, Trump moves on like a luxury cruise liner. It seems that nothing can get in the way of him sailing into the Republican Bay. Nikki Haley on home soil was swept aside, swamped by the luxury liner's wake tide. For this week's news, last but also probably least, remember Abdul Azidi, the Clapham beast, who'd thrown a chemical at a woman and fled? Well, he's been found, the police on Friday said. It seems while the woman lay in a hospital bed, with life-changing scars to her arms and head, Azidi also lay on a bed, the Thames River bed, dead.